The glass shattered. Smoke pushed hard through the eaves, and the wind carried the crack of something breaking inside. Mark Callahan stepped off engine 4 and felt the cold bite his face shield. January wind off the river, sharp, mean, carrying embers across the yard. The 2-story house crouched against the night like it was already losing a fight. Heavy fire was showing from the Bravo side windows, orange pulses beating against the dark. "Report of one still unaccounted for," dispatch repeated over the radio, the words popping with static. Mark clipped his SCBA, pulled the line with Ramos, and started the interior push behind Lieutenant Harper. The front door was already warped from heat, and when Harper shoulder-checked it, a wave of smoke rolled out low and fast. It smelled like burning drywall, wiring, and something else. Something softer, like a mattress catching. They made entry. Heat hit first, rolling off the ceiling like a slow, angry tide. The smoke was thick, brown, pushing down. Mark swept low with the nozzle, listening for the small things. Shifting beams, a groan in the structure. Harper's boots ahead of him. "Fire's running the attic," Harper said. "Move." They advanced down the hallway. A micro-revelation came in the form of a thud above them, sharp and close, something heavy dropping. Harper paused, head tilted, listening. Then another sound. Faint, quick, almost swallowed by the fire. Tapping? Maybe. Or debris settling. Hard to tell. Mark felt a sting of doubt. Could have been anything. But a memory flashed. A call years ago. A kid trapped behind a collapsed dresser, tapping the wall, and no one heard it until too late. He shoved the thought away, but it still left a mark. The crew pushed deeper. Fire showed at the top of the stairwell, licking down through what used to be a ceiling vent. A rollover snapped across the upper layer. Bright, brief, mean. "Knock that back," Harper ordered. Mark opened the nozzle, a tight, controlled burst. Steam exploded back, fogging his mask for a beat. Then another shift overhead. A crack, a groan, louder this time. The kind of sound a roof makes when it's thinking about quitting. "Everyone out now!" Command's voice hit their radios all at once. "Roof collapse on the Bravo side. Pull out!" Harper didn't argue. "Back it out." They reversed quickly, boots sliding on the wet floor, hose snaking behind them. Halfway to the door, a sudden rumble rolled through the house. The roof on the Bravo corner dropped 2 feet with a sound that felt like the whole world flinched. Dust dropped like rain. The hallway shuddered. They spilled out to the front yard just as a section of roof caved in, sending sparks and debris into the front bushes. Air felt shockingly clean after the smoke. Mark pulled off his mask, breath visible in the cold. He heard the radio chatter spike. Defensive operations, collapse risk, aerial placement. But he also heard something else. A sharp, tiny cry from somewhere inside. Not imagined, not debris. A human voice, short, frightened, swallowed almost instantly by fire. Harper turned to Command. "We still have a victim inside." Command's answer came fast. "Conditions are unstable. Hold exterior attack." Mark stared at the house. Smoke poured out with a new urgency, the kind that said time was running out. His gloves were still shaking from the heat, but the cry replayed in his head. Unmistakable. Another micro-revelation hit. The hallway they'd just backed out of wasn't fully compromised. The collapse was on the Bravo corner, not the rear bedrooms. There was still a chance. A slim, stupid, narrow chance. But real. Harper looked at him. "Mark, don't even think about it." He didn't reply, because thinking wasn't the problem. It was knowing. Knowing someone was alive in there, somewhere past that smoke, somewhere they hadn't reached. Wind gusted, carrying another sound from inside. A cough. Mark tightened his mask, rechecked his seal, and reached for the nozzle. The roof was collapsing, and then he still stepped back to the door. The wind hammered the front porch. The floor inside groaned like it was breathing. And Mark Callahan crossed the threshold anyway. He moved fast, low, keeping one hand on the wall and the other locked around the nozzle. Visibility was gone immediately. Thick, brown, angry smoke pressed down to his knees. The glow ahead wasn't clean flame anymore. just a smear of heat bleeding through layers of drifting black. His radio crackled in his ear. "Engine 4, hold position. Collapse zone is widening," command called. Mark didn't answer. Not yet. Talking meant swallowing smoke, breaking rhythm, losing that small thread of direction he still had. 10 feet in, he hit his first micro-revelation. The hallway they'd used earlier had shifted, not collapsed, but warped. Something in the attic had settled, bowing the ceiling downward. Cracked drywall dusted the floor like coarse snow. He swept the nozzle forward, checking heat. The TIC wasn't with him. This was all instinct and training. Heat layer still high, but moving. Fire was running toward the Charlie side, toward the back bedrooms, toward the sound he'd heard. He crawled deeper. Another sound snapped through the hot darkness, a beam adjusting overhead, sharp, warning-like. Mark flinched involuntarily, heart kicking up, but he kept going. You didn't freeze in smoke, freeze, and you became part of the debris. A brief emotional moment hit him as he passed the hallway table, or what used to be one. Family photo frame lay face down near his glove, the glass cracked spiderweb thin. He didn't flip it over, didn't want to see faces he might not reach in time. Too human, too soon. He kept moving. "Callahan, answer your radio." Harper's voice punched through static. Mark forced a breath. "Inside, advancing down the main hall, I still have potential life hazard." Static swallowed the rest. He hoped they got the important part. Ahead, a glow brightened. Not flame, but reflection. Heat bouncing off something metallic. As he crawled closer, he saw it. The water heater had ruptured from above. Debris collapsed across it. The hallway was blocked. Completely. He scanned quickly, mind racing. Left was impossible. Fire coming hard from the Bravo corner. Right, a bedroom door half open, the top of the frame sagging but still intact. A possible bypass. He shoved the door the rest of the way with his shoulder. It scraped, resisted, then gave. The room inside was dim, low smoke, cooler than the hall. Not safe, but survivable. He took 2 breaths before pressing onward, hugging the wall. A crib was overturned near the window. Empty. A small shoe lay beside it. A flicker of unease rippled through him. Not fear, more like a memory of his daughter's room years ago. He shoved it back down. Couldn't think about that here. He moved to the opposite doorway, the one leading back into the hallway past the blockage. The frame was warped, drywall hanging in soft, wet slabs. He pushed it aside and slid through. New sound, a cough. Closer now, weak, dragging. "Firefighter inside," Mark shouted through his mask. "Call out again." A tiny response came. Not a word. Just the thin edge of a breath dragged too fast. He turned right. The heat was worse again. He swept with the nozzle, but didn't open it. Didn't want to push fire somewhere he couldn't see. He needed to find the victim first. Then came the next shift. A flare from the ceiling as stored heat rolled over. A fast, angry wave. He dropped flat, tucked his head, waited 2 seconds for it to pass. His low air alarm wasn't ringing yet, but it would soon. He could feel the weight of the bottle, the thinning breaths. He moved again, finally he saw it. A shape on the floor at the far end of the hall curled near a doorway. Small. Still. Mark crawled faster, checking overhead as he went. The smoke thinned just enough to show a faint silhouette. A teenager, maybe 14, one arm over his head like he'd tried to shield himself from something falling. Mark touched the boy's shoulder. "Buddy, I've got you. We're getting out." The kid flinched weakly, a soft whimper cracking from dry lips. Alive. Not strong, not conscious enough to help, but alive. Mark checked his pulse through his glove. Fast, faint. Smoke inhalation bad. Time worse. The house groaned again. Big groan. Deep. Structural. Mark swung the boy onto his chest, cinched an arm under him, and started backing toward the bedroom he'd used as a bypass. But as soon as he pivoted, something shifted above him. A soft popping. Then a line of cracks raced across the ceiling like lightning in drywall. Mark froze. The ceiling above him was about to come down. The crackling overhead sharpened. Dust rained down in a thin, steady shower, and Mark Callahan knew the next sound would decide everything. He tightened his grip around the boy and moved. Not fast. Fast got you trapped, but steady, controlled, every step measured. The ceiling groaned again, deeper this time, like a warning exhaled through the bones of the house. "Come on, come on," he muttered behind his mask, breath fogging the lens. Half the hall was behind them now. Just needed to reach the bedroom doorway, the bypass, and they'd have a straight shot back toward the front. But the house had other plans. A beam overhead let go with a violent snap. Mark ducked, twisting his shoulders around the boy as a sheet of ceiling crashed down where they'd been seconds before. The impact shot dust across the hallway like a storm. A chunk of plaster bounced off his helmet, ringing the shell like a bell. Micro-revelation. If the ceiling was going in sections, he had maybe 30 seconds before the rest followed. He pushed forward. The bedroom doorframe appeared through the smoke, sagging worse than before. Flames were licking across the upper left corner. Fire had found a path into this space. He squeezed through sideways, dragging the boy gently but firmly. The movement cost seconds he didn't have, and when he cleared the doorway, his low-air alarm gave its first warning chirp. A single sharp beep. Mark swallowed hard. He knew exactly what that meant. He'd trained on that sound for decades. 15% air remaining, less under heavy exertion. He knelt and repositioned the boy, checking his breathing. Shallow. Too shallow. A quiet moment hit Mark then, uninvited. Memory of carrying his own kid when she was this small, asleep after a long shift at the hospital. The weight, the fragility. He pushed it down fast before it could take root. He scanned the room. Fire hadn't fully taken it yet. Smoke was low, heat rising but manageable. Window on the Charlie side half cracked from thermal stress. Not viable for egress. Too high, too much fire outside. They had to go out the way he came. He stood, adjusted his grip on the boy again and headed for the bedroom exit. The hallway beyond was a different world now. Orange flicker reflecting off rolling smoke. Fire had pushed hard from the Bravo corner, feeding on new oxygen sources created by the collapse. He keyed his radio. "Engine 4 interior. I have the victim. Making my way out. Need a line at the front door and eyes on structural integrity." Static. Then Harper's voice broke through. "Copy. We see movement on thermal from the porch. Conditions deteriorating fast. Callahan, you need to get out now." "I'm moving." As he stepped into the hallway, another shift hit. A sudden whoosh as fire flashed along the ceiling, rolling like a wave toward the living room. Mark dropped low, shielding the boy, letting the heat pass overhead. It felt like someone pressed a hot iron against the back of his helmet. His low-air alarm chirped again. He crawled forward, counting distance by touch. The hall table, the torn carpet seam, the baseboard corner where they'd first advanced. All landmarks in a burning maze. Halfway down the hall, he found a new obstacle. The earlier collapse had pushed debris into his path. A fallen joist lying diagonally across the floor, maybe 8 inches off the ground at its lowest point. Just enough clearance for a firefighter alone, but not with a victim. Smoke curled around it, heat shimmering above. He leaned down, gauging options. Going around wasn't possible. Fire on one side, structural sag on the other. The only way was under. "Hang in there, buddy," he whispered to the boy, adjusting his position. Mark lay flat, pushed the boy under first, inch by inch, careful not to drag him across anything sharp. The boy whimpered, weak but present. Good, still responsive. Then Mark slid after him, pulling himself through on elbows. His tank scraped the joist. Sparks of drywall dust puffed around him. Another beep from the low-air alarm. Time was bleeding out. He cleared the joist and hauled the boy back onto his chest. The front room was just ahead now. He could see the faint spill of exterior lights cutting through the smoke like moonlight underwater. He moved faster. The porch was visible through the haze. Silhouettes, flashlights, motion, hands reaching, voices shouting, almost there. Then the floor shifted under him, just a small movement. A tremor, but enough to steal a breath from his throat. The entire living room floor was sagging. "Callahan!" "Watch the floor," Harper yelled through the radio. "We've got basement fire extension." Mark's boots slid half an inch as another tremor went through the joists. Softer this time, but unmistakable. A failing floor meant a fall through to the basement, a death sentence with a victim in arms. He tightened his grip on the boy, testing the floor with his knee. It moved again, deep, hollow. The next step could drop them both. The floor dipped again. A low groan rippled through the joists, and Mark Callahan felt the house trying to take both of them down. He froze just long enough to read the structure the way old firefighters do, by sound, by vibration, by instinct. The living room floor wasn't gone yet, but it was close, bowing toward the basement fire, chewing at it from below. He shifted his weight forward, testing the next spot. It held, barely. "Callahan, talk to me," Harper's voice snapped over the radio. "Inside, living room, floor compromised. I've got the victim. Keep that line on the door." "We've got you. Just move, brother." Mark secured the boy higher against his chest, one arm locked under the kid's shoulders. He lowered his center of gravity and started crawling, distributing his weight across as much surface as possible. Every stretch forward felt like stepping onto a drum skin stretched too thin. 5 feet. Then another micro-revelation. Cold air brushing past his glove. The front door was open, just ahead, airflow pulling smoke outward. He could see shapes now, blurred silhouettes kneeling at the porch line, ready to grab. The house groaned harder behind him, a cascading chain of pops moving across the ceiling like brittle bones snapping one after another. "Move, Mark!" someone shouted from outside. He did, inch by inch. His low air alarm chirped again, faster this time, urgent and accusing. He didn't have many breaths left, maybe a minute, maybe less under this workload. He pushed forward. The floor dipped deeper under his knee. His stomach tightened, that subtle, sinking warning that told him the next push might be the one that failed. He slid sideways, spreading his weight even more, dragging the boy with him. 3 feet. Harper's silhouette sharpened in the smoke. "Right here, right to me." The floor behind Mark let out a sudden, violent crack, a sound like a heavy branch snapping in winter woods. He didn't look back, didn't need to. He knew the basement fire had eaten through another support. 2 feet. The front threshold was visible now, the cold night air pouring in like a lifeline. Mark gathered every last bit of strength he had left and pushed forward. His tank scraped the sagging floor. The boy's foot snagged on torn carpet for half a heartbeat, just long enough for Mark to panic, but then slid free. 1 foot. Hands reached through the smoke. 2 firefighters grabbed the boy, lifting him with practiced care. Another pair of arms closed on Mark's SCBA straps, hauling him the last distance over the threshold. The moment his boot crossed the porch, the living room floor dropped behind him. A deep rolling collapse shook the house as the entire center section fell into the basement. Smoke belched outward. Embers swirled up like sparks shaken from a dying fire pit. Mark hit the snow-covered grass and felt the cold seep instantly through his turnout gear. He coughed, ripping his mask off, dragging air into lungs that felt scorched raw. Harper knelt beside him. "Mark, you good? Talk to me." Mark raised a thumb, not elegant, not heroic, just the truth of how much energy he had left. Medics were already working the boy beside them. Oxygen mask on. IV started. One medic pressed fingertips to the kid's neck and nodded. "He's got a pulse, shallow, but it's there." A short, quiet breath escaped Mark. Relief, not celebration. Just the simple release of knowing the kid had a chance. The cold wind pushed across the yard, carrying smoke with it. Aerial streams opened up overhead as crews shifted to full defensive mode. The house, what was left of it, hissed under thousands of gallons of water. Mark sat up slowly. His gloves trembled from adrenaline wearing off. Harper nudged his shoulder. "You shouldn't have gone back in." Mark didn't answer right away. He watched the medics load the boy onto the stretcher, watched the kid's chest rise under the mask, barely, but rising. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, steady, the voice of a man who'd spent too many years stepping into fire and hoping his judgment held. "He called out," Mark said. "If he calls out, you go." Harper didn't argue. Didn't need to. The ambulance doors closed with a soft metallic thud. Mark leaned back on his hands, staring at the ruined frame of the home. Snowflakes drifted through the smoke, melting before they touched anything hot. The scene was winding down. Command voices were calmer now. Crews were rotating out, switching bottles, resetting tools. And Mark just sat there for a moment, letting the cold balance out the heat that still clung to him. No triumph, no speech, just quiet. Sometimes saving someone didn't feel like victory. It felt like exhaustion with a pulse attached. Harper finally stood. "Come on, rehab tent. Warm up before you fall over." Mark got to his feet, slow but steady. His legs ached. His face piece was streaked with soot. His bottle was nearly empty. He took one last look at the house. It hadn't beaten him. Not tonight. He followed Harper toward the rehab tent as snow kept falling, soft, silent, uncaring, over the steaming remains of the fire.